Okay guys, I am here with WWE Friday Night Smackdown review for March 2nd, 2012. They're in Seattle, Washington. This was a pretty good show. It had its bad moments, but overall I thought this was pretty good. I liked the ending, and it had some good matches on it. And there was some stuff with John Laurinaitis that was just amazing. So overall I did like this Smackdown. But I'm going to get right into it. Sheamus comes out. He says all he can think about lately is WrestleMania. He says he can't wait to face Daniel Bryan. He talks about how he's a changed man now since he became champion. It reminds him of himself and how after he won his first title he became wrapped up in his own ego and became a bully. He needed someone to set him straight and remind him of who he was, and Sheamus says, I'm going to do that for Daniel Bryan. Vicky Guerrero comes out. She interrupts him. Dolph Ziggler says that no one cares about your story, and if you really want to give people what they want and what they deserve, then it should be Dolph Ziggler at WrestleMania. He says this lame joke, Sheamus, I don't want to alert you, but your hair is on fire. Sheamus says that joke's as old as your grandmother Vicky Guerrero. Vicky calls him fella and says that there's all this talk about Teddy and John Laurinaitis and how they're arguing over who should be general manager, but Vicky and Dolph agree that they prefer John Laurinaitis. So Teddy Long comes out. Teddy says Vicky's going to run Dolph's career into the ground, and he books Dolph Ziggler versus Sheamus next. So we get Sheamus versus Dolph Ziggler. This was a pretty good match. At one point there was kind of a botch, or at least almost a botch, where Dolph Ziggler gets hit with this backbreaker, and Vicky Guerrero is obviously supposed to come and put his foot on the rope. So what happens is Sheamus hits Daniel Bryan with this backbreaker, and then we see Dolph screaming, Vicky! Vicky! And then Vicky runs over and puts his foot on the rope just in time. Just made it. She almost missed her cue, but she did get it, so everything was fine. Sheamus gets ready for a brogue kick, but Vicky calls out Swagger. Jack Swagger jumps on the apron. He gets hit with the brogue kick. Dolph hits the Fameasser on Sheamus, but he kicks out. So Dolph goes for the zigzag, but he gets caught in the Celtic Cross, or as they're calling it now, the White Noise. And it gives Sheamus the win. Like I said, pretty good match. The announcers talk about how next week Laurinaitis is going to be the general manager for SmackDown and Teddy Long is going to be general manager of Raw. Teddy is on the phone backstage with Oksana, and he sees John Laurinaitis and David Otunga in his office. Laurinaitis says that he came to get an apology for him attacking him on Raw, and he's got a lower lumbar strain. Otunga says he was thinking of filing a civil action against Teddy Long for brutality against Laurinaitis, but Laurinaitis says I'll accept an apology instead. Teddy refuses to apologize, and then they talk about how they're both managing each other's shows, and Teddy says Otunga is going to face the Great Khali. Teddy says, leave my office before I put some stank on you, and Laurinaitis tells him to calm down and try yoga. Then we hear Michael Cole as it fades away from Teddy Long saying, what a vengeful, spiteful man. I thought that was great. We have Heath Slater versus Santino. Santino wins after hitting Heath Slater with the Cobra. This was fine. Backstage, Eve is... oh god, this part. Backstage, Eve is staring at herself in a mirror when Natalya comes up. And Natalya says that, you know, we haven't always seen eye to eye, but what you did to Zach was horrible. Eve says, well, at least I was honest enough to admit that I was using Zach. And he may have been sweet and honest, but he really stunk. And Natalya farts on Eve and says, no, that stinks. And the fans cheer. She walks away. Eve covers her nose. And I guess Natalya is now a farting babyface. So we have Eve versus Natalya. This was okay. At one point she slaps Natalya in the face. Natalya goes crazy and starts punching her. The announcers are talking about what's the cause of Natalya's problems. Booker T starts talking about how she drinks all these weight shakes. It could be IBS, which is genetic. And then Michael Cole says, "Are you saying Jim Neidhart has IBS?" Bret Hart. It was just really weird and stupid. Fucking sucked. But yeah, it was an okay match. I guess Natalya's gonna be this farting babyface goofball gimmick and whatever. Cody Rhodes comes out and he's talking about how Big Show has his crater-ridden ass and how he showed it last week, and on Raw he showed him getting knocked out by Floyd Mayweather. He shows some pictures on the Titantron. Cody says that Big Show should thank him for costing him a match at Mania, because he just would have embarrassed himself again. He gets ready to talk more about Big Show's losses at Mania, but Big Show comes out. Cody takes off through the crowd. Big Show grabs a mic and says he wants to watch the next segment. He wants to see the next video segment Cody Rhodes has planned. He says, "Come down here, we'll watch it together as friends." Cody refuses. Big Show says, "If you're not going to come back, then I'll come get you." Teddy Long comes out and books Cody Rhodes versus Big Show for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. Snooze fest, I think. I would have rather seen Cody versus Goldust. I really wanted to see that. This, I guess it's alright, but I don't really care to see it. It's not going to build up the card for me. It doesn't really do anything for me. We have Big Show versus Mark Henry. Mark Henry takes off the padding that connects the turnbuckle to the ring post, and he slams Big Show into it, hurting his ribs. Cody Rhodes comes back to do commentary. The entire time he's putting Big Show over, saying that he chokes at Mania, but otherwise he's a great wrestler, he's very dangerous, and he could beat me any other time but Mania. It was kind of weird, but Big Show kicks out of the World's Strongest Slam, and then Henry runs into a WMD punch. So Big Show gets the win. Then backstage we see Teddy tell Drew McIntyre the same thing he's been telling him: if you lose, you're fired. He says it's do or die. Matt Striker and Randy Orton is backstage. Orton says he's fine now, but he's angry and cold-blooded. He wants revenge on Daniel Bryan. Typical Randy Orton promo. Then we see Drew McIntyre. It came back from commercial, so he was already in the ring, and I couldn't tell for sure, but it sounded like he may have had a new song, which really sucks for Drew McIntyre because I thought his song was one of the best things about him. So we have Drew McIntyre versus Justin Gabriel. Justin Gabriel hits a nasty 450 for the win. Teddy Long comes on the Titantron and says he has to let him go. And Drew McIntyre is trying his best to look all upset and everything, and that was it. I've heard people say that Drew McIntyre has been doing a gay gimmick or something like that on house shows, and I didn't really think anything of it, because house shows are kind of like an alternate universe. What happens there doesn't really carry over, and it doesn't mean anything. So I figured I'd wait and see if it happened on SmackDown, and it didn't. So I don't see what the fuss is about right now. However, because they're doing this angle where he's supposedly fired, I could see him doing something like that next week, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe John Laurinaitis, being general manager of SmackDown next week, brings him back. But yeah, this was an okay match. Justin Gabriel hit this nasty 450. It looked like Drew McIntyre was too far away, but Justin Gabriel still hit it perfectly. It just looked intense. The cameras were really close up for this, but I did like this. Then they show the entire Rock promo. Cena comes out, cuts his promo from Raw, the entire thing. I mean, the entire thing, at least on what I watched of SmackDown, it was on here. I don't know if it's going to be on the USA version tonight, but I'm pretty sure it will. I mean, the entire thing. All of Rock's lines, Cena comes out, cuts his lines, then the wrap up by The Rock. The whole thing was on here. It was ridiculous. Then we have Matt Stryker talking to Daniel Bryan and AJ backstage. He says that Sheamus is wrong about him, and because they're in Seattle, he tries to get a cheap pop and says, "I'm from Aberdeen, Washington." And the crowd cheers, but then he says, "However, I did move to Vegas as soon as possible." And so everybody boos him. He says that he's healthier than everyone, and he doesn't own a TV. He says he's still a role model, still the love of AJ's life. He still beat 2 giants, still won an Elimination Chamber. He's going to beat Orton tonight, and he's going to walk out of Mania still champ. Then we have Randy Orton versus Daniel Bryan with AJ. Booker T calls AJ an in-house rat, which I thought was pretty offensive. And they had an okay match. It was pretty good. Orton gets ready to do the drop-down DDT he does on the second rope. However, Daniel Bryan's on the apron, and he's going to hit him on the mats on the outside. But all of a sudden, Kane comes out. And this distracts Orton long enough for Daniel Bryan to get back in the ring, and I guess Randy Orton gets counted out here. Kane and Orton start going at each other immediately. They brawl around the ring. This was pretty good. I liked watching this brawl. And then they get in the ring. Kane hits Randy Orton with a choke slam, lays him out. He grabs a mic and says, "Welcome back." So I'm thinking that Randy Orton's going to have to embrace the hate now, and it's probably going to lead up to Kane versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Maybe they'll throw a stipulation in there. Right now, I'm not sure, but this could be okay. It gives both guys something to do on the card, so it should be fine. And like I said, just this small brawl on the outside looked really good. Then the final segment, we see Laurinaitis and David Otunga watching on the monitor backstage, and Laurinaitis says he's impressed, but this is nowhere near the destruction he's going to cause on SmackDown next week. And Otunga looks at him and says, "What do you have in mind?" He says, "I'm thinking a match, maybe Kane versus someone. Maybe Kane versus Teddy's girlfriend Oksana." And that was it. That was SmackDown. And I thought, oh my god, that's awesome. So I really liked that. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good SmackDown. I hope you guys liked this review. I will be back doing the Ring of Honor TV show tomorrow night, and then I'll be doing the Ring of Honor pay-per-view Sunday night. So come back for those. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, rate the videos, leave some comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.